Motivation changes a lot, especially within language learning. Sometimes you have high peaks of motivation and sometimes you just really can't be bothered. I think one of the main things that ruins people's motivations with language learning is when they compare themselves to other people. And so in today's video, I would like to just have a little discussion about comparing yourselves with other people in general, other language learners, especially of people who are learning the same language as you, especially when it comes to YouTubers online who seem to be a lot better than the average language learner. And I'd like to just throw a few points out there. I decided to make this video because there's a lot of videos online of people who claim that they've learned a language within a short amount of time, whether it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, or even a few days, a week, or whatever time frame they've decided. They typically have the YouTube title or something like, I've learned this language within this amount of time, which is normally a really short amount of time to learn a language. And the result of those videos normally is that YouTuber is able to speak that language seemingly really well in the video to either native speakers or just to the camera. And I can't help but feel like sometimes these videos can actually help to demotivate the audience that are watching the video, regardless of whether that was the aim from the YouTuber themselves or not. Now, I'm not going to put anyone on blast in this video because I don't think that's a good thing to do here, and I also don't think that particular YouTubers who do this kind of thing ever really mean these kind of videos in a bad or malicious way. It's just I feel like occasionally somebody could watch that video and get the wrong intention, or at least just like actually get demotivated from learning their language because they've done something which they've not been able to achieve. So let's say, for example, somebody's posted a video and they put, I've learned Polish within 2 months. And then they do the 2 months of studying Polish, and then it comes to the end of that video and then they're able to speak Polish at a really good level. And let's say it's a really good level, it's way better than what I can do personally, and I watch this video and I see them 2 months grinding or whatever, and then they get to the end point and then they start speaking, and then I think to myself, either one of two things. Either one, that's really awesome, they've done a really good job, congrats on that person, or two, how has this person studied this language for only 2 months and somehow been able to understand so much more than I've been able to? They're able to remember a lot more vocabulary than me in like a lot longer time. I've spent 3 years studying this language and they're just way better than me after 2 months. Are they just better than me? Am I actually even good at learning languages? And that kind of thinking starts to just eat away at some people and destroy their motivation. Now, I'm sure that YouTubers who post videos such as this don't actually intend on the people to lose motivation. In fact, I'm sure that they're trying to boost motivation or just have a bit of fun. But I do think it's a little bit disingenuous to have videos such as this, where I've learned said language within this amount of time. And then normally, or at least sometimes, these videos could result in, when they're speaking the language, a chopped up version where there's edits in the video, which I've done myself as well, but I know that what I've put out there when I'm speaking Spanish, for example, is my true form of me speaking Spanish. Like, it's not like I'm chopping it up to make it seem like I'm way better, it's just I cut out awkward pauses. But when I'm watching other YouTubers doing these kind of videos or just speaking in their language and it's all chopped up and edited to be a better product than what it would have been, I can't help but think, like, maybe are they just reading off of scripts or that kind of thing? And I mean, obviously you can get away with doing that quite easily on YouTube, and so probably yes. But the reason I don't do that personally is because, one, it's disingenuous, and two, if I pretend like my level of a language is way better than it actually is, and then if I'm out and about and then somebody meets me, they're like, oh my god, it's you, and they start speaking to me in Spanish, for example, and then I'm just like, lo siento, puedes repetirlo, because I can't understand what you just said. That then starts to come across like I've just faked all my videos, and so out of principle I will not do that. But obviously other people on YouTube have done things to kind of make themselves look like they're better in a language than they actually are. And I think as well, it's really important to understand that person who's doing those kind of videos, if you watch those kind of videos and if it does demotivate you, what their level already is in the scheme of language learning. Is this their first language that they're learning? Probably not. This is probably like the 5th or 6th or 7th language that they're learning at this point. They probably already have a really good basis of other languages, which helps to learn this next language. Whereas if you're comparing yourself to these people learning, say, their 5th or 6th or more language, and you're learning your first language and you're really struggling, then you've got to like look at the fact that you're comparing yourself with someone who's a lot more experienced with language learning than you may be. When you learn your first language, you're learning way more than just a language. You're learning, for example, different grammatical points and how to think in a different language and so many more things. For example, if I am fluent in Spanish and then I decide, let's go and learn Italian for a video which I'm going to learn Italian in 2 months, for example, and then I get to the end of the 2 months and then I'm able to speak Italian really well. Well, if we look at the fact that I know Spanish fluently, then it kind of shows that obviously I can translate all of the grammar points, because grammar between Spanish and Italian are essentially the same to my knowledge, and if not, there's probably one or two things that are different, but not a lot. And also the vocabulary is also very similar as well, if not the same, for like I think 70% or 80% or something really high anyway. So if you take shared vocabulary and shared grammar points between Spanish and Italian, then you can learn Italian a lot easier knowing Spanish than if you didn't know Spanish. And the point here is that if I've already done the legwork to learn the grammar in Spanish, then I don't need to relearn those grammar points for a new language. I know how gendered nouns work, for example, with masculine and feminine, and so I can translate that straight into Italian, and I've skipped a whole bunch of learning because I've already learned it. Even when it came to learning Polish for me, knowing what I know in Spanish, and I go over to Polish, okay, cool, Polish has like 3 genders in its language, but it's still, I understand the concept of like gendered nouns, and so I can just translate that over into Polish and then just add another one on the neuter. Now that's 3, and then just go from there, and it's a lot less learning for me because it's something that I already understand the concept of. If I am fluent in Polish and then I go over to learning Russian, and then I look at Russian, I go, oh, Russian has grammatical cases, but that's okay because I already know Polish, and I know Polish well enough that I already understand how the cases work, and actually that's the biggest part in the grammar in Russian, and therefore that's the biggest part of grammar I already understand. Russian shares endings with Polish endings with different cases, and therefore I already know not only the case system, but also some of the endings in Russian, and also shared vocabulary is going to help as well. So the point I'm getting at here is that if you see someone and they've learned a particular language, and it's a lot better than what you can learn that language in a longer time, but yet if they know a similar language, then that similar language is going to help them really propel their learning in that language. And so it may seem on camera like that person has learned loads more than they actually have within the short amount of time. Actually, when I learned French for 2 months as a challenge, obviously I already knew like a decent amount of Spanish, and so when it came to me learning French, there was a lot of shared vocabulary there and all the other points I've already made, right? So it came to the end of my 2 months and I just did a genuine speech to a camera, and I just chopped out a lot of the like awkward pauses, and then that was the finished product that was put up onto YouTube. I could have made it a lot better by learning particular phrases and re-recording certain things to make it seem like my level in French after 2 months was way better than it actually was, but for reasons I've already explained, I don't like to do that because it's disingenuous. Though obviously from the YouTuber's point of view, you want to put out content that is good, and therefore you want to put out entertaining content or content that people think, wow, this guy is really freaking good. You can't be disingenuous, and I kind of get it from both sides. But the thing is that like if you're going to demotivate people by uploading a video of you being super good at something that you're actually not that good at, like there's not really any point in doing it, and like ultimately it's just unrealistic expectations from then the viewers. The viewers watch your video and think, you can learn a language in 2 months or a week or whatever, and therefore I'm going to spend a week doing this, and then I'm not as good as that person, and then motivation drops because you just compare yourselves to other people. When you're learning your first language, not only are you learning a language and you're learning different grammar and different words and stuff, but you've also got to work out which methods of studying is better for you than others, because not everyone is the same, everyone is different, and therefore one method for me that will work really well will not work for you necessarily. Are you someone who likes to just read books and go into the book and read pages upon pages of that language and just learn that way? Or are you someone who would rather get a dictionary and go through the dictionary one by one, or just open up random pages, let's learn this word today? That's how maybe some people like to learn, and that's how they may learn best. Are you someone who likes to watch YouTube videos or Netflix, or maybe listen to podcasts or speak to people in real life to learn through conversation? Are you someone who likes to listen to music in the language? Are you someone who likes to play games in that language? There's so many different ways to learn a language, and when you're learning your first foreign language, you are literally trying to figure out which methods work for you and which methods do not work for you. Whereas when you've perfected the methods that work for you, and when you've figured out what actually is the more fun methods for you to study a language through and which ones work the best, you already know that, and that takes a long time to figure out person to person. And so when it comes to the languages coming after that, you've already skipped that huge step of trying to figure out which methods work for you. You can pick up a new language and say, for example, reading a book in that language is the way that you learn. Day one, you can get into that language, you can pick up something probably a little bit thinner than this, and you could just start and reading stories in that language. Simple stories, things that you may understand, but still something that you can just get straight into. If you're more of someone, for example, who likes to watch YouTube videos, you can go straight day one, watch YouTube videos. But if you don't know which methods help you to learn languages the best, or maybe it's the mix of doing those or whatever, you really are just trying to see what works and what doesn't work for your first language. And so you spend a lot of time trying to just figure out what actually works when it comes to learning a language. So especially if you're learning your first language, please keep all that in mind, and please know that you're doing more than just learning a language for your first language. Especially, you're learning so much more. It takes a long time. Learning a language does not take a short 2 months or 1 week or whatever. It takes at least a couple years to get anywhere good in learning a language, unless of course you have a specific goal and you may learn certain phrases and you just repeat those phrases over and over. But realistically, when you're learning a language, you're trying to actually learn that language to be able to be comfortable and conversational in that language. But obviously everyone has different goals, and so that may not be the case for you. Also, I'd like to say before I go that I do not discredit anyone who actually does these videos as well. Like I said, there's no person in particular that I'm talking about right here. It's just the genre of uploading videos where you're learning languages within a set amount of time. Obviously, like I say, I did it with French, but I was not disingenuous with my level of French after 2 months. Whereas some of these people, I feel like, upload these videos and they feel like they have to be a lot better than they actually are. The languages for the video to be better. I feel like if they've learned the language and they've scripted the video regardless, even though they may pretend like it's not scripted or whatever, they have still done some kind of language learning, and they've still learned that language in order to do that video, and that is still a way for them to learn the language. It may come across like they know a lot more than they actually do, but they probably only know how to say those particular sentences or whatever they say within the video. They probably are not able to also speak about other topics. So keep all that in mind. I don't discredit these people as such. I think they're still doing language learning, and they're still learning the things that they've learned to say in the video, and there's no reason why they can't do that. There's no reason why they can't study sentences and learn how to say particular sentences. Uczyć języka polskiego od 6 lat, for example, is a sentence that I've learned and I've said over and over, and I just change the number every time that the number changes from 2 to 3 to 4 or whatever. That's completely fine to learn sentences. It's just, again, when you're pretending on camera like your level is better than you are, it can and will discourage people who are watching your videos in some instances to learn languages or to continue with the language they're learning. If you just come along and after a couple of weeks or months or whatever, you are able to learn this language a lot better than what this person has been studying for many years. So as a person who's watching those videos, do not be demotivated by watching those particular videos. Just watch them and try your best to get motivated from them if possible, or if it really does demotivate you, just don't watch those kind of videos, I guess. But I feel like it's something that's quite big in the language learning community. I do see comments of people on Facebook and on other platforms as well talking about how this kind of thing can demotivate them and has demotivated them. So I just wanted to sort of put my feelings and thoughts about this kind of topic out there to try and help you guys really just keep up motivation as much as possible. At the end of the day, these people who are doing these videos, they don't want to demotivate anyone, I don't think. I do think they're trying to put out videos that they think will do well for their YouTube channel. But just remember, no matter who you are, it does take time to learn a language, and so I would just recommend to keep at it and just to do what you feel is comfortable, do what you feel is fun, and do what you want to do, and don't ever do anything else because somebody else has told you to do it. That's all for this video. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have taken away something useful from this video, and let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on this topic. And with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, have a good one and peace out.